A while ago, after watching one of my film camera reviews, someone left a comment requesting that I review some Kodak Portra film. I've just been too busy to do it, but recently I bought a roll of Portra 160, which I'm about to load into my trusty Canon T90. Film to the little orange dot. Close the back and we should hear the camera load. Let's just check the ISO. Yes, the ISO is at 160 and we're all ready to go. Kodak Portra is a daylight balanced professional colour film designed to render optimum skin tones. Because of its accuracy rendering skin tones, it's recommended for weddings and portraits. It's available in 3 speeds, ISO 160, 400 and 800, and this video will cover the ISO 160 version. Some film stocks, such as Velvia, are highly saturated for the classic Instagram look. Portra has weaker saturation and contrast to keep skin tones looking natural. However, the ISO 800 version is more saturated than the lower ISO versions. According to my video statistics, the A1 is a far more popular camera, but because this video was about testing a film stock, I wanted to make sure that the metering was accurate, and the T90 metering is far superior to the A1 metering. In addition, it's simply a much better camera than the A1, and I prefer using it to the A1. It's a long and boring story, but most of my FD lenses are back in the UK where I can't get hold of them. And that's really unfortunate because back there I've got a 135mm f2 lens which would have been absolutely perfect for this test. For this video I just used these two lenses, the 70-210 f4 and the 28mm f2.8. With portraits it's usual to use a portrait orientation, but as YouTube is a landscape orientation, if I'd done that the images would have been very small. So for all these portraits I've used a landscape orientation. 35mm film has an aspect ratio of 3:2 and YouTube is 16:9. So I've had to crop each photo to fill the frame in YouTube. Portra is advertised as being able to render skin tones accurately, but what is a skin tone? I found this chart on Wikipedia and it shows the range of human skin tones, and as you can see that range is very broad. I made this video in southern Thailand and I mainly took photos of people who work outdoors. And in this part of the world, because it's so hot, skin tones tend to be quite dark. Because Portra is colour balanced for daylight, I didn't use a flash and neither did I use a tripod. All shots were handheld. I headed off into the Thai countryside about 20 minutes from where I live. One reason is because this is where I feel most at ease in Thailand. And secondly, it's because I wanted photos of real faces, not necessarily beautiful faces. It's currently the rainy season, and at this time of year the light changes very quickly. When it rains it's very dark, and when the sun comes out it's very bright. This shoot was quite difficult for several reasons. And it's not until you shoot with film that you realise how spoilt we are with digital cameras. Even with a 32 gig memory card, which is now considered quite small, you get thousands of shots. You can review each photo after you take it, and if it's no good, just delete it and take another one. With film, you can't do that. I went out with one roll of film, which had 36 frames, and they were the only frames I had. If I screwed up a shot, which I did several times, that frame has gone forever. So it certainly makes you think a lot more before you actually click the shutter button. Modern autofocus is fantastic, especially the latest dual pixel autofocus. You just decide where you want to focus and you know you're going to get perfect focus. Manual focus is a lot tougher and it needs practice. And because it's so long since I used a film camera regularly, I'm quite out of practice. The other great innovation is image stabilization, and many lenses now have image stabilization of 4 stops or more. Even with telephoto lens, we can take pictures at insanely slow shutter speeds and they're still very, very sharp. But none of my FD lenses have got image stabilization. And this day was quite rainy, so people were indoors. And it was quite dark, and if it's too dark and the shutter speed goes too low, you just get a blurry photo. Another problem was getting permission to take photos. The country folk tend to be quite suspicious of strangers, and they're even more suspicious of foreigners. And although I speak the Central Thai dialect, most of these people in southern Thailand in the countryside speak the southern dialect, so there were some communications issues. And I had to do quite a lot to convince them that I wasn't going to use their photo for nefarious purposes. If people were inside, the light levels were quite low, and that caused problems. If they were outside, they tended to wear wide-brimmed hats for protection from the sun, and that made their faces very dark. I could really have used some fill-in flash, but before the shoot, I'd already decided not to use a flash. And the veils worn by Muslim women cause the same kind of problems as wide-brimmed hats. What I found with the Portra is that it seems to like quite a lot of light. If you're outside and there's lots of sunshine, the colours look bright and vibrant, but inside they tend to look a little bit dull. This is another one that was taken inside, and although I quite like the subject and the composition, there's nothing about this photo that pops. As you might expect with film, there's a lot of noise and not much detail, and if you zoom in too much, you just get even more noise and even less detail. And if you use a noise reduction filter to try to remove some of the grain, you just end up removing even more detail. But because film photography is so challenging, when everything comes together perfectly, it can be really rewarding. And this was my favourite shot of the entire shoot. I must admit that when I first started doing film photography videos, it was really just to get some more content for my channel. I was never convinced about returning to film photography seriously, but I really did enjoy doing this show. When I used to do a lot of film photography, my first love was travel, and the photography was just there really to record my trips. I didn't see it as an art form, and I didn't play around with different types of film. I just put in some Kodak Gold and took photos of wherever I went. Nowadays, when I do film photography, I look at it in a different way. I scanned the negatives myself using my Epson V600, and I just used the standard Epson scan software, which is as good as any third-party software that I've used. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I actually had quite a lot of fun taking the photos to make this video, and it's inspired me to try some more different film stocks. So if you want to make sure you see those videos, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.